Welcome to another Thursday night NCL coaching with the Player Ambassador team. Sorry about the delay in starting. We had a little bit of issues with the bridge. Tonight we have Stephen Miller joining us from. You said you're over in CAE
at the CAE Community Forum, and our 308 CAE schools are meeting along with our government partners.
Wonderful.
That's great. So for those in the audience that aren't really familiar with the Centers of Academic Excellence, that is kind of a designation given by the NSA for meeting certain curriculum requirements. Am I right? Is that basically it? Or
that's correct. There's three different types of designations. There's a Center of Academic Excellence in cyber education. There's one in operations, and there's one in research. And some universities can hold all three of those. Community colleges are only allowed to have a CAE in education, cyber education.
And that's the CAE 2Y designation, is that right? That's
correct. So
I'd heard that they were going to expand that a little bit, that they were actually talking about different curriculum programs at the 2-year level. Is that kind of what you're there talking about right now?
We're changing the process somewhat. It's more like it's going to be a process, much like the accreditation process, but it's not going to be an accreditation. It's a designation, and they designate the curriculum based on what we call knowledge units, and really we're looking at the outcomes. So what are the outcomes that the NSA is looking for, and how do our outcomes in our programs map to those outcomes that the NSA is looking for? And then that's part of it. So this is a two-step process. So once you get your curriculum, whatever that could be, the program could be a certificate, or it could be an associate's degree, or it could be at a bachelor's, master's, or PhD. Once you've had that approved, and it's a peer review along with the NSA, so there's academia and NSA reviewing these curriculums. Then once that's approved, you can apply for a designation and become a CAE, and that's where they look at the institution itself. As an institution, you have to meet certain requirements. Your faculty have to have certain amount of education or certificates, experience. Some of it is work experience in some cases. We have to have a secure IT department so that we have a plan in place. Once you become a CAE school, you have a logo from the NSA. You're going to have more attacks on your school. Those type of things. We also we have outreach. What are you doing with outreach? What kind of collaboration are you doing? Do you have collaboration with universities, with industry, with what type of student development programs do you have in place? So there's 7 areas of criteria, and within those 7, there's usually anywhere from 4 to 7 different subcategories within those. So like for student, when you're for student development, they want you to show the syllabus that you're using. Then they want to show what are the assignments, and they want to see a real assignment. So something that was graded. So if you had a research paper, they want to actually see that student's research paper. Redact names, so they don't see the names, but they see what we're doing. Same way in labs. So the NCL is a requirement, and not specifically the NCL, but one of the criteria is right. Are you participating in competitions? Are your students getting that experience? It's a key. So anyway,
I was going to say that I knew that playing in games or being competitive or having some actual hands-on learning is actually a huge requirement of the CAE. That was one of the reasons why we actually started doing the Tidewater Security Club at my community college as a support for doing the CAE program. So
something else that just came up in the meeting, and I'll share this with you all because you need to go back. If your students, go back to your faculty and your coaches and tell them that they should have told you that you're supposed to put down that you've graduated from a CAE program. A lot of turns out that a lot of students aren't doing that, and they miss out on scholarships and actually job opportunities.
Oh,
Great. That's a great tip.
good to know.
All right. Red Witch, do you have any experience with the CAE program, or?
I don't actually. I honestly hadn't heard about it much before you started going a little bit more into depth.
All right, great. So we have actually a good panel here. We got a blend of, certainly, on the one side we have an expert in the field, and definitely doing the CAE program, and we have a complete, fresh approach to it. So I would say that actually that's common. I know a lot of the colleges that I've looked into, they either know what the program is and they're already working toward their accreditation, or they don't know what it is at all, and they have that brand new, fresh take on it. So. But I think that in my experience, the CAE matters because it gives us a standard, right? And standards are really big in our industry. It's really important that when we say that we have a degree in cybersecurity, what does that mean? Certainly we know cybersecurity is this huge umbrella. Just from playing the games, we know that we have everything from reverse exploitation to web penetration to classic cryptography. So I mean, it's a very, very wide umbrella. So I think that the CAE does a really good job of kind of putting all that into one program curriculum that is the standard, so to speak, for where we go forward.
Yeah, that's true. But we have leniency to, we don't want everybody just to concentrate in one area. So there's several different knowledge units that you can map your program outcomes to. And so you may have a program that's more forensics. So that would be a lot of schools are concentrating on forensics. We're mainly in a community college. We kind of look at operate and maintain the systems where we place students like in a entry-level jobs as a cyber technician. We use the NICE framework. That's another thing. I don't know how many of you all know about the NICE framework, but you need to look it up.
You're talking about the one. You're talking about the one that's from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, right? Yeah. So you mentioned operate and maintain. There's also protect and defend, and a couple of other.
We do that one too. Yeah. 7 categories.
So I mean, if you're not familiar with that NICE program, I find it to be a really great tool for kind of gauging where a person is and what their tasks and abilities are. The NICE framework breaks things into knowledge, skills, and abilities, and I really like how that kind of marries up with NCL. In that, the NCL also gives you your little radar at the bottom, little radar graph that tells you that you're really good in cryptography and a little bit weak in web exploitation or something like that. I think that the NICE framework is designed so that you can take those knowledge, skills, and abilities that you're really good at and actually find a job. There's like 52 different jobs that are listed in the NICE framework, and that way you can kind of say, you know what, I'd be a really great analyst, or I'd be really good at protect and defend, right? So
So the NICE, there's some San Bernardino, which is they developed a program called the NICE Challenge, and it's actually a lab. It's a real world environment. So if you go to the NICE Challenge, you can go look at that. Just Google the NICE Challenge, and we use that as a tool to help measure the competency of our students. But it also is a tool for us as faculty, and we actually use it for our NCL training as well, because you can see where your students need help. And one of the things about the NICE Challenge is that it's not like, you're just going to be a challenge on this lab covers how to crack passwords, and you're going to be using Linux or something like. No, it actually looks at the enterprise network, and you're like in a help desk, and you have a time limit, and it's just like a real world environment. It's really a good experience, and that's one reason we use it for our students to practice for NCL, because you're in a time limit in NCL as well. So, and actually, when you're in a help desk, you actually have to depend on other people in the help desk, level 1, level 2, level 3 support. You can't answer all the questions that come up, so you have to work as a team to solve the problem that a user has, and that's the way the NICE challenge works.
That's a great resource. If you get a chance, if you could link to that or any information in the window, that'd be great.
Okay.
Webwitch, how did your postseason go?
My postseason went well, although I had a couple of things happening all at the same time, but I did get to, come into the team games and help out in that last little bit, kind of keeping us neck and neck with some of the other teams. Which it was a lot of fun. I loved interacting with people on Slack because I was having little conversations back and forth. I can't remember who it was, but they kept saying, "Hey, could the player ambassadors stop getting points so they stop passing our team? That would be great." And so I was going back and forth with that person a little bit. As far as
light trash talk without being offensive, right?
Yeah, it wasn't trash talk. It was Kate just like added me in the chat and was like, "We need some points right now," and I just said, "Okay, done."
Yeah, and I know you came through big on our team, and it was great. It was great being on the player ambassador team, because we all have our own, unique spotlights, and it was really interesting. For the first time, I hardly touched network traffic analysis at all, and you were able to completely sweep that category without me. So it's really cool to be on a team like that.
When I got into the games, which was particularly late, I think we only had like 24 hours left. No one had touched network traffic analysis. I think Kate put it up on the Slack saying, "Hey guys, I think we missed something." And so I was just designated network traffic analysis. But one of our other team members did some as well. So two of us tag teamed, and was Paul?
It might have been, or I think it might have been Paul.
Paul and I tag teamed. It was fun.
So we learned a lot, I think from each other, which is the great thing about the team game, right? Is that you're not the only expert on your team, hopefully, and if you are, then you're passing that knowledge on to the people in your team. It's supposed to be the idea that you're not just there for the competition aspect of it, but for the learning aspect of it as well. And we learn by teaching, we learn by doing, right? And that's where I love NCL for that. It's both things rolled into one.
So speaking of passing on knowledge, since we're talking about like wrapping up the NCL season and what that means for teams and what that means for individual players, do you have any specific advice that you can give to the teams and the players specifically as to how they fill the time between now and obviously the next games?
Well, actually, I'm going to throw that question over here to Steven. I know that you're involved in NICE right now. There's working groups and everything within NICE, right? Is there room for like students to get involved in either that or like NCSA or anything like that?
Well, as far you mean in the NICE working groups? Students yes. So you could go to NICE. And that will they have working groups, and you can work. There's a collegiate working group. There's one for industry. There's one on competitions. Dan Matson, who is of course the commissioner, is on that committee. Actually, on the CAE, Dan is on one of the working groups in the CAE community where we're looking at competency measurements and tools. So. Our school is we're testing out two tools. In a way, we've been using them all along, and that's the NICE challenge and the NCL, because NCL is really a good measurement for how well students can actually apply what they've been learning, and also after we have a meeting scheduled. We're working right now. The students take the lead on this, and once you get hooked with the NCL. It seems like as a coach, I don't have to do much. They're already pushing me to get some meetings scheduled. So we're going to we have post meetings to find out what went well, what didn't go well, what should we do different. We're putting together we've got a MS. I mentioned we have MS Team. So we've got a blog going on MS Team. We're trying to put together a kind of a workbook that will help us. What tools do we need? How would she do? How would we do more of this? Some of our newbies, they especially on the dual credit side, some of the high school students, now they have their own teams, but our students help coach those teams. And a lot of times they don't know how to load VMbox or whatever type. So we're providing all that instruction for those for the newbies, for the high school, and they're going to come on into our program after they graduate high school, and actually with a certificate already. But that's kind of what we're looking at, and so you can get involved that way. That's basically, I don't know if your coaches are providing that kind of support. They should be, but if they're not, you can reach out to us and we can help promote that. One of the things we've talked about in the NCL Ops is to try to get more involvement with the coaches, give them more ideas on how and resources to help them do a better job of coaching.
Yeah, that's actually really what we're here to talk about tonight, which is how you run those those post meetings, those lessons learned, or how you capture your documentation, or how you are able to build up that knowledge base. Now I know that we as player ambassadors, we have some huge goals coming up, of creating a lot of content this next year. During the off season and during the beginning of the next season. So definitely want to keep in touch with CryptoKate's blog. We'll be putting quite a bit of that information that you're talking about on there. But it's really good to see the teams themselves come up with that and see that knowledge passed on within a club. I think it kind of ensures like perpetuity of the club, right? I mean, you're training the next generation and creating this document trail that you can always go back, and it really, I think, helps to identify training topics, invite guest speakers, that kind of stuff. Is if you know what kind of subjects you need to teach or go over, then that gives you a really good idea of who you need to talk to. I know that I stay busy in the off season as well. I'm part of those working groups. I think I've seen Toby in those working groups before, right? Toby Lynn, yeah. I think I've seen him in the working groups also.
Yeah, actually, Toby and Franz were at the NICE just before the CAE community forum. We had the NICE conference and expo, so they were here and talking about how NCL can better map in with the NICE framework.
Yeah, that's great. I would like to see that, absolutely. But, I think gamification is what we kind of refer to it as. Gamification is a big deal within the cyber industry, trying to create this atmosphere of learning, but with a not off-putting kind of scholarly kind of way, right? A lot of non-traditional students, are able to find these easy, on-ramps onto cybersecurity through games. So I definitely, applaud your efforts there in the CAE and, where you're at right now and working with the teams that you are.
Oh, so, another thing we do is not only do we have these post meetings, and we also try to do some recognition because I think the recognition is really important. And it's not so much you don't have to have scored the highest points, or even we try to recognize everyone in some way that they participated in the team activities, and also what's come out of NCL at our school is that the club, and you have to understand all of our students are online. We have no face-to-face classes, so it's difficult. But they have come up with. They push it. The students are pushing this. They have their own club that they're developing, and so we use technology to help connect each other. And then we're hoping that we get some ideas to where we can actually physically come together someday at maybe at a conference.
You keyed in on something that I thought was really important just now when you were talking about those awards, right? Which you do awards with your program, right? you give out like just silly awards or some sort of recognition, or was that Kate that was talking about that?
I think that was Kate. We sort of built our program we didn't have a larger supporting program that we were working with. We kind of built it all ourselves. So it's still being built out, and they're still putting a lot of work into keeping it going. They've expanded the days that they're meeting, but we don't have little award stuff. We haven't really gotten that far yet. It's only maybe a year and a half old. So
yeah, I know it's like with those brand new clubs, you're still kind of putting all those process and pieces together. But to those, kind of tuning into this, I want to give you an example, I guess, from our cyber club. At the end of the year, we gave out these awards, and they were just silly awards, kind of to recognize that people participated, right? And it's not a participation award or anything like that. It's the currency that we use, right? So like when you're in a volunteer organization, we don't pay people to be there. They're not employees. They are volunteering their time, and you want to give that kind of some meaning behind it, right? And I think a really good way to do that is just recognition. Just, hey, I really appreciate when you helped this person. Really appreciate how you pulled the team through this part. Really appreciate the coaching and mentoring that you did in between the different seasons. And just coming up with some silly awards. I was kind of in transition between TCC and my graduate program at Colorado State. So I was kind of in both camps at once, and they gave me like a turncoat award, just because I was, kind of doing a Benedict Arnold thing, working with this team, but really helping that team. And, so, just a funny little challenge, a recognition like that, I think goes a long ways to making sure that those people feel welcome and they want to come back next year and participate in the next games. And, so I think that's a really critical aspect to your postseason.
I would agree. When I was at NASA, I worked on the Apollo projects in mission control, and we used to give away these different awards, and they'd be like crazy awards. So one guy was, and this is really dating me back, because we didn't have a lot of we didn't even have monitors when I first started at NASA. So everything was key punch machines. But when we got monitors, it changed the world. But one guy hit the wrong key, and it ran all the paper out of the printers. And so we gave him an award. And it was actually a printout of an astronaut. But it was a very long printout of an astronaut.
That's great.
Oh, that's very good.
All right, so we have a question finally coming in. We have from Enemy Gate Down. It says that my school is listed as a CAE for cyber defense and cyber defense research, but we don't seem to have any degrees that are obviously cybersecurity.
Hello?
It's a little bit of a bandwidth problem, maybe.
All right, I will continue reading the question. We don't seem to have any degrees that are obviously cybersecurity focused. Should I reach out to the computer science department and ask them which programs align with the CAE system if I'm interested in this ecosystem?
Well, you can do that. If your institution doesn't have, so they're a CAE school, you should be able to determine what that program is that they're doing. What I would recommend is going. Let me see if I can get the website, and I'll see if I can get the link, and you can go to the NIETP website. There's a map on there, or a list of all of the different schools, and it should tell you whether they're a CAE. Or actually, you can email me. That would be better. I can look it up, and I'm going to put my email in here. That may be a mistake, but that's okay. I get a lot of emails anyway.
In the chat?
And you could, pardon?
I said you're putting your email into the chat?
Yes. Is that okay?
Well, I mean, you can. I'm not going to stop you.
Okay, I'll wait. I won't do that.
But you said there was somewhere for people to find those resources.
Yes, you can Google the CAE community website, and it should show you a map of all of the schools. You can click on that map. It should take you to that school's website to where it shows their programs. What school, if you can tell me what school it was, I can kind of follow up with them and tell them that someone's looking for that information.
Enemy Gate Down, do you have any addition to this question that you would? The person is in the chat, so maybe they will be able to give us some.
Okay.
Well, we'll see.
You should reach out to that too. They should just reach out to their faculty, and they should have that information.
North Carolina A&T.
Okay.
The link on the list just points to the school's homepage.
Okay, that's all it does. So then you may want, on that home page, you should be able to do a search on cybersecurity, and you should be able to find their what program. It should find a Center of Excellence program. Let me see if I can do that really quick. I'll do it for you.
All right. While you are looking for that, does anyone have any questions about? Oh, actually, someone has a question. Is there a possibility in the future of having a rundown of the questions to explain the methods taken to answer them? So, Doug, one of the things that the National Cyber League does pretty regularly for either the gyms or for sometimes the actual competitions is reuse some of the questions or reuse some of the similar framework. So we officially cannot give you a complete rundown of what all the answers to the questions and how you would get there. The closest we can do is kind of what we're doing now, which is introduce you guys to the tools that we know that you guys will need over the period of the competition. But we can't go over specific questions because Toby and Fran spend a lot of time building those, and they need to be able to reuse some of that framework for continuing games. So people who have seen the questions before will be able to reflex the skills that they did learn, that they did gain from the last time. And people who are new don't have those answers spoiled for them. So we can't give you exactly, but we're with this kind of program, we're trying to do our best. There are things that we will show you guys that are essentially competition questions a little bit to the left, and we do our best to make all of our content extremely relevant, but we can't give you those walkthroughs. However, that's not stopping you from going to the Slack channel, which has a whole section called Methodology No Answer, which is really good for because a lot of people will be willing to write up their own answers. We can't give you those, but other people are more than willing to tell you how they went about solving a problem. If you are part of a team, it's always good to go in there and grab as many of those as possible, as many of those write-ups, and then be able to review them later on. Because you may not run into the exact same question, but you'll probably run into something very similar. And you never know. It might be good to have those things on hand, because I don't know if they get cleared out of the Slack channel after they. I don't know if they get cleared out of the Slack channel at the end of the season at a certain point before the next season starts. But I would definitely go and grab those, because there are a lot of really wonderful write-ups that I have seen done by other players.
So I think we found a solution. We got to the right website.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, in fact, that's part of that criteria. You're supposed to be able to go at least do a search on the institution's website to find the cybersecurity programs. And so I did that, and I was able to get to it. So
perfect. Good that you found that for them. Thank you for doing that. Besides the, I think I'm going to get the acronym wrong, CAE?
Center of Academic Excellence.
Okay, CAE. Besides the CAE programs, oh, is he back? Hello. Besides the CAE programs, do you have any specific things that you do with your teams in the postseason to help them get ready for the next season? It can be anything from what kind of, what meetings that you hold, or like how do you, like if you have one student who ends up being really good at a specific subject, how do you encourage them to work with their other team members? Like, do you have a support system for that, or do you just kind of hope that everyone sort of shuffles along around?
Actually, it's student driven, and the club is important in that area because the club helps drive a lot of that. And we're actually, I have 2 students right now working with me, and actually they're doing the work. I'm just they just want me to be on board, and if there's
adult supervision.
Yeah. Well, not really, but a curriculum changes or something like that, or resources, then I can help them with that. But they're actually developing almost like boot camps. They're going to try to, we're going to try to run. And if you ever, I don't know if you're familiar with MS Team, it's got a lot of functionality. It's almost like an LMS. So you can actually set up a course within MS Team. So we're going to look at doing some of those things, but the students are going to drive this, and they're going to help develop it. So in a way, that's what the NCL is so good about it. Students become self-learning, and they probably learn more than they do in the classroom, to tell you the truth. It's not reading a book that's going to get you a job and get you the knowledge and abilities that you really need to do a job. It's going to be hands-on. Hands-on, and that's what's so good about the NCL. And the nice challenge is similar to that. So you can't you do the nice challenge, and I will tell you, the nice challenge is a challenge. I don't even finish all the challenges because I don't work day to day in those environments, and so it motivates you to say, well, I need to figure out how to do that. I don't know how to do it, and they're not teaching it to me. But I want to be, I want this job, and I know what the job is because it's in the nice framework, and it says that I need to know this. I need to have the ability to do these functions, and so I'm going to go learn it on my own since they're not teaching it at school. But I also would tell my faculty that, hey, you probably have a review every at the end of every semester. You could put it in those reviews and say, hey, you're not teaching me what I need to know. And we get that all the time. Sometimes we have to say, no, we don't teach that in a community college, not in our community college, but they will teach it when you transfer into the 4-year university. And a lot of that's in cryptology and especially in the higher levels of cryptology, and the math requirements aren't for everybody. So we just can't teach it in our particular program because we're really trying to train technicians, not analysts and engineers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What would you recommend for off-season training? A couple resources. Just each.
Go ahead. I'll let you go first.
Off-season training. Some of the things that I found really helpful, and this isn't necessarily something that's open to everyone, but I actually looked up different hacker groups in my city, or actually at the time it was a couple cities away. I did some driving, but I ended up doing these meetups that were with these people who were doing educational topics every week, just because I wanted to learn. I just wanted to learn more, even if it wasn't necessarily directly associated with what is in the NCL. And I also got to meet a lot of these people, and just becoming friends with them, I learned a lot because we would have these conversations. They would be willing to teach me more and more about different topics. And some of these people have directly helped me fix my Linux distro once because it broke really bad. But I think one of the biggest things I'd say is community is a really huge part of cybersecurity. And if you are able to find those places where you are able to reach out to people in your own community, not just the students that you're with, but even, other adults. That's something that I highly suggest. I'm now very good friends with a lot of these people, and I hang out with them. And we have another CTF team that we attempted the DEF CON CTF. It didn't go well, but we tried, and that's the important part. And we've like put together a CTF group that has done other things since then. So reaching out into your community, finding what's out there is really good. Like specific resources that I've found useful. If you're having trouble with like web challenges, Hack the Box is everyone's kind of go-to. I've slowly been working with some of that stuff. I do web hacking for a job now, and I'm still not that great at Hack the Box. And because they use a bit of a different skill set sometimes. But that's something that I've been working on because it does expand what I do know and helps me do better at my job, just like in general. So those are some of the things that I would suggest directly. Do you have any?
Well, we do a lot of the same thing that you've mentioned there, but we also have some labs that are open for students that, and the NICE challenge, I can go back to that. Students can really schedule their, they can request the schedule, and then we have a person that will schedule the labs. And we're actually going to be moving that to the club so that the club can actually have access to create a, if a student asks for a specific challenge, then they can go ahead and set that up for that student. You have 2 days to work the challenge, so and then you have to reschedule it if you let it time out. But we're working on that type of thing. We used to have an other type of lab that was available for the entire time you were enrolled in the program, but we don't do that anymore. But so what we have to do is we just like you were mentioning, we try to go out to other communities. So Moraine Valley Community College, actually, we have a relationship with them, and they let us use their NDGnet labs, which can train for that, and they don't charge us for that because we don't, we don't try to abuse it. We're just we let the students, the ones that are interested, they can go use those labs. And so that's the type of thing we're trying to do. I think the students have more with this. I can probably report back next year how successful, because we're developing an entire new approach to this. Hopefully we'll see some results. We're not trying to be the number one team, and it'd be great if we were, but I just want to see that the students are learning and get some confidence that when they're given a task, they can do that task based on that job. In fact, this came up in our meetings in the NICE conference that a lot of companies now, when you come in and do the interviews, they also say, here's an assignment I want you to do. You have an hour to do this. Can you set up users on this platform, or can you find where can you hack these passwords or whatever?
No.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're seeing that more in the technical interviews now, definitely. And I've been asking technical interviews before, what's my home lab look? What am I currently doing, to my, non traditional education, I think it's almost an expectation now that you're involved in something. I'd like to echo, what was said before, which is, the community involvement, right? I'm a very, very big fan of ISSA. I've done that group for a couple of years now, and they put on just great training. It's a good, community to be part of. And I think, attending their meetings, you make some professional contacts. There's a great group in the Colorado Springs area that does a big con called Peak Cyber. That's, usually in between seasons. And then let's see, other things between seasons. I am a huge fan of the Sans Holiday Hack Challenge. I love that thing. It's themed, usually, around, holiday, challenges, and they have little Raspberry Pi challenges in it. And then they have, a larger kind of story that you're playing into, and you're discovering more and more, clues to the final, story. It's a really great narrative. It's a really great story. It's just fun to be part of. And then they always publish their tools, techniques, and procedures afterwards, so that you're able to, find out where you went wrong, or, if you didn't do that SQL inject statement, as good as you could have. Sometimes what you did worked, but it's not the best solution, right? So Sam's definitely look at that. And then there's a ton of online CTFs. There's Discord servers that are set up with nothing but CTF challenges. A lot of community support through those Discord channels. There's like you said, there's local meetups, and in my area, I know that they're putting together. There's 3 groups actually. There's the cyber club I started, and then there's like a larger colleges of my state, that kind of come together, and then there's one for the entire region that just kind of all of us getting together. So it's really fun to be part of these communities. You end up going to like a B-sides and running into people that you talked to on Discord before, or going to these conventions and seeing one of your heroes up on the stage, and actually kind of getting that face-to-face time. There's a lot to do all season, but I think just the biggest advice I could give is don't quit, right? Don't rest and be like, oh, okay, I don't have to do anything for another 3-4 months. Don't rest, because all that knowledge that you've gained, if you're not using it and repeating it, then it's just going to go all through that same process you just went through this season. Nobody wants that, right? I have a document that I keep on my a desktop that is stuff that I should have known, and everything that I learn in the NCL, I type in that document, and as the first thing that I bring up every time that we start the NCL is I go back to the list of things I should have known last time, and hopefully I've learned them by this time. So, all right, great. Any other questions out there? I don't really see a lot of activity tonight. I think everyone might have already quit, right? They're already kind of tuned out, done with the NCL, right?
Well,
maybe.
Well, might be a short night then. That's fine. We've had some technical glitches to get around anyway. So, okay, I guess I'll go around the table. We'll have a Web Witch give us your kind of final thoughts on the topic. Then we'll go to Stephen. I'll wrap it up, and we'll call it call it done.
Final thoughts. I think what you said is correct. Like you have to just keep working on stuff, even if you don't have a ton of motivation to work on something. Just even reading a couple of news articles about something, if you're not feeling feeling up to diving into a whole new CTF or a new set of challenges because you need to take a breather. Just keep reading about it. Keep it in the back of your mind, because sometimes there will be things that pop up that you didn't expect to, but you somehow got them through osmosis because you were just kind of listening and still on the beat of things. So that's what I would say to that.
Great, thanks.
I would say you could take your scouting report, look at that and say, look, I really do need to. This is an area that I'm really not doing too well in, and just take that one area and take a look at it and try to do some investigation on your own and see if you can increase your skills in that area. And you could also reach out to your coach and say, look, you give me some advice or resources that I could follow up on to get more to become a better skilled in that particular area.
Great, thank you. And I have a couple comments I just want to address really quick. Mark Darkshark, from one shark to another, right? I'm Mako here, and from one shark to another, we really do appreciate the players and just the good positive vibes that we get and all of the just all of the support we get for that. But I will tell you this is a beginner group. This is the first year we've done these player ambassadors, and we are only going to get better from here, deliver more content, more often. And, it's going to be a great group. We've already got such big plans for the future. I can't really, talk about all of them, or Kate would probably, have something to say to me about that. But yeah, it's going to be a great season. Off season. Keep in touch. Definitely. Kind of keep pay attention. Keep tuning in. It's going to get really great next season. So we're looking forward to it. Hope you're looking forward to it. And from all of us, thank you for a great season. And
Thanks, everyone.
I guess that's it, right?
Enjoy the holidays.
All right.
Oh yeah,
Good
enjoy
night,
the
everybody.
holidays. Night.
Oh yeah. Happy holidays.